Hi, thanks for tuning back in. I'm Ann Say. I'm back. I'm glad you're back. And I have an exciting word for you, an encouraging word for you today about identity. And, sometimes in God's word, we find the sweetest nuggets in the most unlikely places. And this one happened to pop up in Isaiah chapter 2. And I love it when God does stuff like that. I want to take a moment before we start and just mention that sometimes we need to break out of our routine and find those nuggets. God says that it's His glory to conceal a matter, but it's the honor of kings to search it out. And sometimes we need to go to a different Bible translation or sing some different worship music in order to get that fresh nugget of revelation, because revelation is part of what resuscitates our spirits and our hearts and our minds. Even Paul says we're to be renewed by the transformation of our mind, and if we're just constantly stuck in the same translation or singing the same worship songs, sometimes it's good to mix it up and do something different. So that being said, I'm going to be reading out of my Passion Translation today. Passion Translation, this one is the New Testament. It also includes Psalms, Proverbs, and Song of Solomon. And Isaiah is also done. I have it in a PDF form. I would love to send that to you if you're interested. I guess it's at the printer being printed, but I have the PDF and I will send it to you if you email me at ann@annbsay.com, and I'll shoot that off to you. I know Pastor Brian Simmons would be thrilled to get a copy of that in your hands. So I found this nugget on identity in Isaiah chapter 2. And if you know me, you know I'm all about identity and making it real and practical and getting traction in your faith. And I think this is something you're going to find will just put real hope infused in your circumstances and resuscitate your love for the life that you're living. So in chapter 2, just starting in verse 1, Isaiah is talking about the mountain of the Lord's temple. And this is what it says in the Passion Translation. This is the word of the Lord revealed to Isaiah, the son of Amos, concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the last days, the mountain of Yahweh's temple will be raised up as the head of the mountains, towering over all the hills. Many peoples will come and say, "Everyone come, let's go higher to Yahweh's mountain, to the house of Jacob's God. Then He can teach us His ways, and we can walk in His paths. Zion will be the center of instruction, and the word of Yahweh will go out from Jerusalem." Now, just a couple of thoughts here, because a lot of Hebrew is metaphors and word pictures. And mountains are usually metaphors for kingdoms and governments. And, of course, we are God's temple now. We are His tabernacle, His dwelling place now. So really what God's talking about is His people will be raised up as a kingdom, as an authority of government, and it will be above all others. Now, obviously, ultimately, this points to Jesus, but for practical purposes, individually for us today, there's a real word of encouragement. There's a real shot of adrenaline for our identity. So mountains are kind of cool because there's a teaching out there about the 7 mountains, and you can Google it on YouTube and find it. But basically what it's saying is that every culture has 7 key components in it: government, business, religion, family, education, entertainment, and media arts. And so these components make up every culture, no matter where you are in the world or what point in history you are in the world. So when I read that in Isaiah about the mountain of God's temple will be raised up as the head of the mountains, what it reminds me of is God's people, because we are His temple, coming together to the mountains that they're called to, because we're all called to different parts of our culture and our society, and really being a kingdom and a government that will usher in the government of Jesus. I think this is really powerful because a lot of people in the world today think that God's kingdom is irrelevant, that the message of Christ and the good news of his gospel is irrelevant. But what God is saying here through Isaiah is not only 3,000 years ago, but today, that when we come together, when we walk in our identity and we are walking in intimacy with God because he lives in us, then we are positioning ourselves for him to raise us up to be a positive, powerful impact in culture. And I think that's really important. So how do we know what mountain of culture we're called to? And I've shared a lot recently about how much I don't know about politics. And I cannot say that I'm called to the political realm of culture. I need to learn more. I'm learning more. But it's a slow start at my age. But I am called to, say, the family faction of culture. I'm very passionate about family, especially blended families, because we have so many of them, or broken families. I'm also very passionate about education and obviously religion. Now, on the other hand, my mother, I would say she was probably called to the mountain of government. Now, how do I know that? Well, here's a big clue. First of all, you get kind of excited when you talk about it, when there's problems in that area, and you start to say things like, well, if they would only, you come up with solutions. And that's why I would say my mother was probably called to the mountain of government, because she had a solution for almost every level of government and a problem in that level. Everything from the city mayor and the police and the fire departments, and the infrastructure of her little town, all the way up to the President of the United States. And as a matter of fact, I don't think she would mind me sharing, but she would even pray for the members of government before she went to bed at night. She would have a hard time falling asleep. So I was spending a weekend with her at one point, and she said, well, sit on my bed and pray with me, before we go to sleep. I said, okay. So I sat down, and she started with the President of the United States, and then she went down through her state senators and her state congressmen and the governor, and she literally went down and she named each one and she prayed for each one individually, all the way down to her local mayor, and even the head of the nursing home that she was a resident in. And so that's like a big reason why I could say with confidence, she's called. Her life, she was called because she had a passion for it and she could see solutions for it. And so that's one way. So maybe you're called to the aspect of family, and maybe you're a homeschool mom and you just see solutions to problems that moms are having. That would be an indication of who God created you to be and your identity, and a place for you to boldly go forward in there and use your voice, use your passion, use the ideas and the solutions that God has given you to bring peace and heaven and order and prosperity, all those things, favor, all those things in that area, because that's who God created you to be, and that's your part of God's mountain becoming a place of solutions and peace and prosperity. So I hope that was helpful. I love identity, and the 7 mountains is just a piece of what we talk about. So if you're interested in more, reach out to me, and we can start a dialogue. And meanwhile, have a great day. Be blessed. Just rejoice in who God created you to be. I was thrilled when I discovered that my goofy sense of humor was just something He gave, just special to me. And He's given you special things too. So be blessed. Have a great day, and I will see you next time.